Hey everybody, welcome back to Trial and Error. Special episode today. So we're going to be doing a review on this YESWELDER, which I've been dying to get my paws on. This was in the running when I bought my last welder, and I ended up going with the prime weld. So I'm very curious to see how this holds up against it, because I had it down to those two. But more importantly, we're hitting 30,000 subs today, or recently. So what we're going to do is a 30K giveaway. I've got a second one here that is going to be going to one of you. So those are pretty good odds. Subs compared to giveaway items. So really excited to do that, and I want to make sure it goes to somebody who really does want it. So going to be a very simple process here. Go into the comment section, say hi, tell me why you need this, and I'm going to be drawing a random name from that. With that said, if it's a random comment that has nothing to do with wanting this welder, I'm not going to pick that person. So make sure you tell me why you want it. Not looking for a book or a sob story, just want to make sure it goes to somebody who really does want it. With that said, let's get into it. On the back here, normal on and off switch, nice strain relief on actually a very nice cable. You can always kind of judge the flop factor, which as you get older ends up looking like this. But a nice cable, and it looks to be a good decent length on there too, probably 7 feet or so. Gas connection is firmly affixed to the back casing. Again, everything nice finish coat of paint or powder coat on everything. So we're gonna go under the skirt here. Just nice cutouts. I mean, they even went and powder coated this inside behind the display there. But everything's nice firmly affixed to that front panel, which I like to see. Now I've disassembled, welders and plasma cutters from name brand, what you would consider, I guess, name brand companies, or more well-known brands, I should say, like Lincoln. But I've also taken apart a whole bunch of stuff from what are fast becoming, more popular names like Lotus and Prime Weld, and then some really off-brand stuff as well. And I have seen a considerable difference in terms of build quality, and it's very evident when you take a close inspection of the systems themselves. And I can tell you right out of the gate, I am very pleased with what I'm seeing in here. That main board is very nicely done. So let's take a closer look here. Okay, here's a couple of the things that I'm looking for. We'll check first that back side of the board. You can see there is no mess of solder on anything. Anything that does need a good bulk of solder is well done, well contained. Traces are nice and thick. That's probably a 1/16 of an inch high. I know it's tough to judge on camera, but a nice heavy trace wherever there is a trace. We've got some Celastic down here to mitigate some vibration. Nice grounding with a little strain relief and heat shrink right on it. That's a good marker of general quality. Nice copper connection between your positive and between the ground. All right, on this side, again, they've Celastic or used some glue on every single one of these connections. The board itself is firmly affixed in multiple points to the chassis, so that's really not going anywhere. Okay, they got a nice little all brass solenoid valve, so it's brass on the fitting, and then sometimes, let me show you better. Put that in frame, you meatball. So you got a brass connection here, and on some of the lesser ones, you'll see that nice brass connection on the outside, but as soon as you turn around and look at the valve inside, it goes to plastic. Not the case here. Nice solenoid valve on a brass connection, which I would imagine, I'm sure must have a brass, not a ball valve, a brass gate inside there as well. Nice, decent clear, actually heavy clear tubing. That'll hold some pressure. Crimped on connections there, a couple of big capacitors sitting on the back. Heat sinking looks fantastic. It's all arranged in the correct way. So opposing the fan on the back here, everything, all the heat sinking vanes go this way, and they're pulling air all around the toroidal transformers as well. As far as name brand components, I'm not expecting to see any but we'll take a look. Actually, Sencon caps, not a bad cap at all. Relay, who's making the relay? Omron relays, so would not have expected that in what would be a value brand. So that's huge. Yeah, really nice, nice gap, nice spacing, plenty of air to pass through. Even the rheostat that they're using, look at the, hold on, let me get that in there. Look at the size of this guy. That's no joke. I mean, little things like this get overlooked, but this takes, you know, your hand in a glove and you're just ripping on the thing. Even heat shrunk the connections or heat shrunk the cables going in, going into that variable resistor or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, very pleased. The hookup is actually easier than pulling troops out of Afghanistan. We're just going to want to make sure we pipe tape up or dope up the gas fittings. So we've got one that's going to hang off at the back here is the input. And then over on the other side, we're going to connect that to our bottle of compressed unicorn farts. If you don't have unicorn farts, argon is a suitable replacement as well. Also, while I'm thinking of it here, make sure you're following me on either Instagram or Facebook as well. I'll be announcing our winner for this welder on both of those horrible platforms. This may look semi-complicated, but I assure you it's not. For our torch here, which I did find has a posable head, which is very handy, you've got a couple of options. One is your main connection, so this is your gas, but it also provides your electrical connection as well through that one fitting, so that's very convenient rather than having a separate one coming out. What we do have for a separate one coming out is a remote trigger, so sometimes you're kind of stuck and you have to use the switch that's on these when they even give you that option, so luckily the guys at YESWELDER have that built in their torch, so that's a really nice feature to have. Even some of the more name brand ones, like I've got a CK torch here, which is kind of like the world standard in terms of a nice professional torch, but this doesn't even have that as a feature. You have to zip tie on a separate switch, so that's kind of a pain. Really nice that they worked that in on this particular one. But this is, in my opinion, this is your last resort. This is when you're in a really tight area where you can't get a foot pedal. I get much better control using foot pedal, so obviously they supply you with that as well. We're gonna go with the foot pedal option for that, but it's nice to know that you do have that, and not only do you have it, you don't have to set it up. It's already wired in and built right into the handle, so that's really nice. For pipe tape, I like to do like 4 or 5 wraps on it. There's no perfect answer. And fittings vary a little bit as well, so even if you think you got it right, you'll come across another fitting with a little bit more play in it than the other ones did, and you'll have to put a few more wraps on it. So kind of a trial and error thing. When you are TIGging, your grounding electrode is actually your positive electrode. So we're going to slap that into the positive. You do have the opposite here because this machine will not just do TIGging. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's got the thing to tighten it down. You don't even, a toolless connection. They thought of everything. Anyway, so when you're using it for stick welding, you can just obviously flip this guy over to give you your ground loop, or your ground connection, I should say. So I thought about who was going to be buying something like this, and for most of you, it's probably going to be your first foray into TIG welding. So in that case, a lot of the time, you are not going to have a 240 volt outlet or access to that in either your home or your shop or garage or doing your driveway or whatever. So I think testing wise, I'm going to put a full load on this, but I'm going to do everything off a regular 120 volt household current, because that's going to show me the worst possible performance that this machine can do. And that, from a review standpoint, to me, that's what matters. That's how most of you are probably going to be using it. That's how I would have used it if it was my first TIG. So I think that makes more sense. So everything you see here, and we're going to work with some really heavy material, heavier than it probably should work with, but that's kind of the point of a review. It's all going to be done at 120, so this thing will only outperform that as you increase your voltage. Your main power is on the back, so we'll kick that on. Purrs like a walrus. before I forget, the only things that this has not come with right out of the box ready to rock and roll is some PTFE or pipe dope, something to keep your unicorn farts in the sealed unicorn fart chamber, and some tungstens. So you will need tungsten. This is your electrode tungsten, goes into the torch. So you're going to need some sort of tungsten to go with that as well. It did come with different size fittings for different size tungstens. I am erring on the slightly heavier side of average for what this is set up for, because we're going to be, again, going to be pushing full amperage on it and see what it can do. All right, we are set to TIG. I'm going to crank our amperage all the way up. Turn on the gas. All right, don't mind, I do have some crap on the end of my rod here. Sounds like a fun Friday night, right? Yeah, so it might be a little splattery here because my material's a little dirty, but that's okay. We're just getting it going here. Nice arc. Getting good heat out of it. And we're burying this in 1/4 inch. So this is no joke. Oh, really nice. I'm getting a super, super steady arc. Wow, beautiful. Holy crap, that thing welds, that welds better than my big prime weld machine. I mean, I know I only did a 1/2 inch weld there, but, and I actually popped the breaker. So this has a post flow, a pre-flow and a post flow, and what that is it turns the gas on prior to sending the arc, and then when you release the pedal, it will shut the arc off and continue to flow gas. And what that does is it helps you kind of protect that weld puddle while it's still a puddle. So as you can see at the very end there, we got a little, actually you probably can't see, I'll zoom in. So as you can see, we got a little snugger at the end here, but you can ignore. What about that little guy? Don't worry about that little guy. That's just because the post flow wasn't running, so it was still wet when the gas shut off. But the good news is that popped my breaker, so that's telling me a lot about how much current this is actually passing through. So that just popped a 15 amp breaker. That's a really good sign. It is definitely moving some current through this thing. And what's amazing is it weighs almost nothing. These inverter-based power supplies, they're incredibly efficient and incredibly lightweight. All right, now we're back on a 20 amp circuit. So I actually love that just popped the breaker. That's just a really good sign. So let's try some different material. Again, this is some, I mean, you can see my finger versus the material, 1/4 inch stuff, and it had no problem getting me a nice puddle to weld in 1/4 inch on 120 volt 15 amp circuits. So, I mean, really, that's impressive. Okay, I'm now moving on to some 1/8 inch material. Just some scrap crap I got kicking around, but what's nice is this isn't cut straight. So I've got some spots here that are going to be, you know, the metal's going to be butted up nicely like you would like it. I've got a lip hanging off of it, so that would normally make for a mess. And then I've got a gap to fill, which is always a little bit of fun. So this will give us a nice little combination of a whole bunch of different stuff to try. And again, 1/8 inch material, so, you know, not an easy thing to work with for a portable welder. Man, I'm telling you right now, the high frequency start on this is much better than my big machine. It's instant, it's strong. Like a prom dress, we are off. Oh, I'm loving this thing. Dude. All right, so I left myself a tail. Now I want to go back, remelt that, and see if we can make it somewhat pretty. Not pretty, but just not ugly. Dangerously close to my puddle. Oh. Tell you what's not working well is my friggin' helmet. This thing has flashed me like 4 times. I don't know what settings I have it on, so we're gonna fix that. Love it. I'm not just saying that because I'm going to give one of these away to you. I mean, really, what a nice welder. So I've tooled around with this thing for a little bit since filming on different gauge metals and just little projects here and there, and it's been flawless for me. I'm comparing this right now just to my prime weld. So this is a machine that costs almost 4 times as much. And I'm telling you, this strikes a cleaner arc. And it holds it just as steady. Both of these are really smooth inverter-based arcs, and this is right there with it all day long. I know from a current standpoint, just on that breaker tripping and what it was able to do on some 1/4" material, that it's got, you know, the cojones to back that up as well. So, you know, for a first-time TIG welder to learn on, this is the easiest TIG machine I've ever used. For somebody that's just like a travel welder or something like that, inverter based, crazy light, super easy, comes with everything except your tungsten and some pipe dope. It doesn't get better than that. I wouldn't even say this is like a value brand type of machine. This is a good mid-level machine at an awesome price. And for one of you, it's going to be a really awesome price when I give it away. So again, make sure you comment below, tell me why you want it to be entered into the giveaway. We'll probably do the drawing in a week or so, week, 10 days, somewhere in there. And I will be sure to make sure I post that on my Facebook and my Instagram page. So make sure you're liking and following those so that you don't miss it. I'll probably throw it on the YouTube, whatever it's called, a little community tab as well, but YouTube's not always great about showing that, so make sure you follow the Facebook and the Instagram. As always, any questions, concerns, comments, and or criticisms, throw them down in the comment section below me. Otherwise, everybody, thank you very much for watching. Thank 30,000 of you for subscribing, and I really do appreciate that. So give a little bit back here, and you guys have a great day. Thanks.